Morning, Dan. Thanks ever so much for joining me today and for your putting the time in the diary. It's much appreciated. I'd like to use the time to sort of explore how VAS and Allica are working together and how we sort of are really trying to sort of continuously improve that customer journey between us. But before we sort of start off on that track, we probably ought to introduce or give you opportunity to introduce yourself and VAS.
Hi, Nicola. It's good to have this time this morning to talk to you about VAS. So, my name's Daniel Owen-Parr. I'm the commercial director at VAS Panel. VAS is a group of companies that came from our founder and co-founder of Panel, Stephen Todd, about 5.5 years ago. And it was originally an audit business where we used to audit valuations for mainly the short-term market. But over a period of time, we then decided to set up VAS Panel about 3.5 years ago, and that has grown to the business that we see today, where we have over 190 different valuation firms on our panel, and we help lenders like yourself, really get the best quality valuations in the market.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, you say you've been going for quite a few years now, but obviously the last year has probably been quite a challenging one. Is that created difficulties, or has it created opportunities as well? Because sometimes the two do go hand in hand, don't they?
Very much so, Nicola. I think the first thing that was a bit of luck, really, that we about a month prior to the original first lockdown last March, we went on to Microsoft Teams, which didn't seem a particularly big big thing at the time, but trust me, with 20 plus staff in the VAS office, and varying different consultants that we use, to have that communications device was an absolute godsend. So we made the decision to go and work from home probably just over a week prior to Boris coming out and on that Sunday night and saying, right, we're in lockdown. So we were well prepared. I think initially it was very difficult. The volumes dropped off relatively quickly, but what we did see was the entrepreneurial spirit of the market, and there were lenders that were still lending through the first lockdown. We were supporting them with predominantly desktops because we couldn't really get anybody out to go and visit sites. So we were doing that. Not our ideal option, if we're being honest with you. But what it did allow us to do is that it helped the market carry on. When that was lifted, the valuers then rushed out and then actually inspected the sites that we'd done the desktops on. And then when the second lockdown came, we saw a slightly change in the markets, and it was good to see that more lenders were lending and valuers would go out under certain restrictions. So certain asset classes were more difficult, so your more populated sort of multiple occupancy houses, that type of stuff in city centres. A lot of valuer didn't really want to go and see those. It becomes more challenging,
yeah.
Yeah, but then most of the other stuff was relatively easy, and we had valuers going out and about, and that stayed the course through to where we sit today. So we now don't get any problems at all, and hopefully with the roadmap to being removed out of the lockdown, then we don't see any issues there. So we've seen growth, a lot of growth over that period of time. We've had some of our biggest months ever in the last couple of months, and part of that's down to yourselves at Allica, really, hitting the market. So yeah, initially very difficult, but then it's given us also time to do a lot of planning and look at our processes and our systems.
I know,
and stuff like
and
that.
that's sort of leads me on to my next question, actually, is because I know I was reading one of your quarterly updates, I think, recently, and you've got a lot of irons in the fire in terms of continually building that, that, I suppose, the customer journey, making things quicker and slicker for us. It certainly helps us, but I'm sure from an introducer perspective, that will really help. Can you sort of take us through a couple of those key points?
Yeah, I think that the main point and the main where your introducers or yourself will interact with us is through our lender dashboard, and we've spent a lot of money and a lot of time and thought into making that as good as it possibly can, and that's really important, start of that journey for anybody coming into us. So we've spent a lot of time, a lot of money on that. We've also been looking at a payment link, and then that will be released over the next few weeks. And it's very much that marginal gain approach where we improve everything a little bit, which then allows the whole process to really move a lot quicker, a lot slicker, and more intuitively, if you see what I mean. We're also looking at sort of trying to work a way of linking ourselves more seamlessly with our lenders. So APIs are one of the ways of doing that. So we're exploring that at the moment in time. So as a business, we're not a tech business, and we freely admit that. But what we are is a relationship business that uses the best of the technology out there, because we want the humans to be there to help, your team or brokers, really that, because lending isn't easy, and if it was easy and really formulaic, then there'd be no humans involved in it. But the reality is that you need humans, because not everything is always as it seems. So we've got a team of 20 odd people there who use the sort of technology to make the process easy and simple, but actually are there to support the brokers and yourselves when things aren't quite as we see.
Yeah, and that's exactly how we work, to be honest, Daniel. We Allica, as you know, we will always try and use the best possible technology. There are so many benefits that we can do these days. We get to API interaction, that ability to move things around so much quickly. You reduce the risk of errors, you reduce miscommunication, you pull your timescales down. You want to make the best use of technology, but it's the people that add the value, where you need that interaction, where you've got those things that are a bit more complex. They need discussing, they need to understand. Look, walk me through this. Let's see what we can do to help keep that process going. And that hugely adds value, but it comes with that tech side of stuff as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So on that note, what can we do to make things easier from a VAS perspective and get valuations out and moving quickly and effectively? Is there something we can help with? Because we'll take it back to the team, but from an introducer perspective as well.
I think everything starts at the beginning, and that's the most important part of the process. So I think for an introducer is really understand what the property is, and maybe just do 5 minutes of due diligence. There's loads of sites on there, from Zoopla to Rightmove to varying other stuff for commercial property, where they can just do a little bit of due diligence and just think, is this property value roughly what the client has said? And I think if you just spend 2 minutes doing that before engaging with yourself, that will set you off in a really good position. And when dealing with yourself, is really give you as much information about that property as you possibly can. So when that's going into our system, when we get that information, if we get all the information up front, we can then get you a quicker, more accurate, and more realistic quote. And the process then goes much quicker. So spending that extra 5, 10, 15 minutes at the start actually improves the whole journey by hours, in some days, where when we don't have all the information day one and we go out to our valuers, most of our 65% of our valuers are local valuation firms. So they will know the property, they will know the area really well.
And if it's not the right already.
And if it's not the right information, we really have a problem then, because then they will turn around and say, it's not us. Valuers are very busy people at the moment in time. They don't have a great deal of time to sit there and do lots of work to make sure what they're being told is actually right. They'll go and visit the property, and if it's wrong, they'll come back and they'll say that's not what I was told, not the right fee, or it's not the right property, or it's not the right property type. And we get it from time to time where just the information isn't right. And it's not been explored properly to understand it for varying different reasons, and that causes a catalogue effect on there. So the main thing I can say to you, Nicola, is if your introducers can just do a bit of due diligence to make sure what the client is telling them is the right type of property and is in the right area, but also around the right value, because it's no point, brokers don't want to waste their time with something that's not realistic from day one. But then when they're interacting with you, is just give you, I think Brian said it on the first one of these Brokercasts, which was about, what was that one thing that really helps them, and that is information. So if they can get as much information to you guys to underwrite, but also to your team around sorting out the valuation, that will just help us so much, because we got everything up front. We'll get you a realistic quote. We'll get you that report back as quickly as you can, so then you can really get that deal moving and get it across the line, because we know the valuation process is one of the sort of the three main time-consuming areas of really getting that loan out the door. So we want to do it as quickly as possible. So if they can help us, we will help you guys to do it as quickly as possible.
No, makes absolute sense. Anything that sort of stops the need for phone calls and emails backwards and forwards. You know, our introducers have got a lot on their plate. They don't need calls back. We don't need, you know, it's a bit of a virtuous circle, isn't it? So we'll all pick up on that. But thank you, Dan. Right, we'll leave it there and let you get back on with your day. But thank you very much for your time, and we will see you soon, I'm sure.
Thank you very much, Nicola.